Here are the pyramids, crypts of long-departed god-kings whose weathered bulk endure far past the legacy of their occupants. And here is the Sphinx, a now noseless marvel of ancient architecture which leaves modern builders aghast at its complexity. Yet, Egypt has grown far past this legacy. Standing proudly on the banks of the Nile, Cairo's skyscrapers overshadow the pyramids and stand watch over one of the world's most bustling cities. But beneath the polished tiles of the Cairo International Airport, and beneath the new library in Alexandria, an 8,000 or more year old legacy remains. Did you catch all that? No? Well, that's a shame. It was about 3,000 years of Egyptian history, what we call the pre-dynastic period. Although it was all extremely important, it was also spread out over a vast amount of time. A video covering that mess shall arrive one day, but this series will be focusing on the periods of Egyptian history that defined the popular image of ancient Egypt, the Old, Middle, and New Kingdoms. In this video, we'll be covering the more iconic of the three. The Great Pyramids at Giza, the Sphinx, the Pharaoh's rise to godhood. Today, we will be going over the history of the Old Kingdom. Accepted to have begun in 2686 BCE, the dawn of the Old Kingdom saw the pharaohs' ascension to divinity, their power encompassing every aspect of Egyptian life. Although formally venerated as deities on earth long before then, it was in the Old Kingdom that the pharaoh's corporeal power swelled to match his religious significance. The period now known as the Old Kingdom began in conflict when the great king and military strategist Narmer united the distinct upper and lower regions of Egypt through conquest, leaving a 2-foot clay tablet behind to chronicle his feats. He established a new center of power, a city known as White Walls, which would later be named Memphis by the Greeks. As power and wealth accumulated within this city, the first rulers of the Old Kingdom prepared to flex their dynastic muscles in a truly spectacular fashion. The banks of the Nile held some of the world's most fertile soils, resulting in great prosperity for Egyptian farmers. However, this prosperity came at a price. Once every year, something like this would happen.
Wow, you're working really hard out there.
Yes, I am! Oh, Merit, my sweet, the more I work this land, the more it gives. Our family shall be well fed on delicious wheat for generations to... The river would flood during the annual season of inundation between our June and September. The waters would surge over the river's banks, sweeping over dry fields in a torrent. When they withdrew at last, nutrient-rich silt would be deposited, lending the land its astounding fecundity. No farm labor could be conducted during those 2 months of flooding, resulting in most of Egypt's population spending that time idle. That was until the mighty pharaohs noticed all that labor sitting around untapped. As hungry farmers looked out over their flooded fields and nibbled on what produce they had the ability to preserve, the reigning pharaoh would send out a great muster for labor. People would flow into White Walls in the tens of thousands, not in chains as was once believed, but as free laborers paid in fragrant beer and hearty bread from the pharaoh's own stores. With such overwhelming manpower at their disposal, Pharaoh Djoser and his brilliant chief architect Imhotep would go on to erect the first of the Egyptian pyramids. These pyramids would not only go on to become inseparable from the very idea of Egypt itself, but also served as the centers of contemporary society, gargantuan keystones holding the vast kingdom together. Before King Narmer united the upper and lower regions, the people settling what we now know as Egypt had few ties with each other. Sedimentary societies dwelled within these lands, as well as many quasi-nomadic tribes living in seasonal settlements. Although some of these people owed their allegiance to pre-dynastic kings, there was little those kings could do to exercise actual power over such a spread-out diaspora. This changed when the spread-out peoples of Egypt answered Djoser's call, congregating together in Memphis to craft a tomb for their god king. For the first time, a distinctly Egyptian identity emerged, binding the kingdom's people together. Due to the great amount of food produced by the fertile soils near the Nile and the pharaohs offering work and food to their people in hungry months, ancient Egyptians were strong, well-fed, and fit. This, combined with powerful military technology such as the two-wheeled Mesopotamian chariot, rendered the Old Kingdom a force to be reckoned with and allowed it to dominate its neighbors. Besides being a steady meal ticket for the populace, the pyramids also acted as the grand center of Old Kingdom religion, in which the pharaoh was believed to be a living god, worshipped alongside the falcon-headed Horus and Ra, lord of the sun. Although never being used as places of ritual or worship, these titanic crypts embodied all that Old Kingdom religion was, where a man could be placed on the pedestal of the divine. Throughout all of ancient Egyptian history, it was believed that the afterlife would reflect the life one had lived and that possessions could be transferred from one world to the next. As such, these living gods stuffed their grand tombs with wealth and artifacts and the mummified bodies of their deceased servants who would forever attend to them in the world beyond. The wealthiest rulers of the Old Kingdom, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, built their tombs on the banks of the Nile, tilted east towards the rising sun to better meet the sun god Ra on his morning journey. Khufu built the largest pyramid of them all, what we now know as the Great Pyramid at Giza. At 455 feet, it would stand as the tallest structure on the planet for millennia to come, and would never be eclipsed by any other pharaoh. Although the Old Kingdom is known chiefly for its greatest visible legacy, there was more to this long dynastic chain than big stone triangles in the sand. Despite having very few copper deposits within its borders, Old Kingdom Egypt produced a wealth of spectacular copper metallurgy, suggesting an extensive network of trade and tribute with neighboring kingdoms. The Old Kingdom also saw the emergence of greater societal advancements, with the populace moving away from agricultural trades and taking on more specialized crafts such as flax weaving, pottery, and even administrative duties. These advancements would not be enough to save the kingdom, however. And as the Nile floods began to fail as a result of sparse rains in the faraway Ethiopian highlands, Old Kingdom Egypt split apart into a famine-racked struggle for power. Egypt would recover, and later dynasties would carry this land to power far beyond what even the mighty Khufu had enjoyed. But no Egyptian dynasty, and no other nation in the ancient world, would ever leave quite so striking a mark as the Old Kingdom. Enjoyed the video and looking for more? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next part of this series, where I'll cover the rise and fall of Egypt's Middle Kingdom. Or you can click here to watch a video delving into the character of Hades, Greek god of the underworld.